Great stuff. I think everyone should be able to hear us now. And I think, Alex, can you see the panel with all the chat and everything?
Yep, I've got that up on a separate screen.
Brilliant stuff. Okay, cool. So I think as everyone's arriving, we'll kind of just introduce the topic and the session, I think, should all be good. So please, if there are any problems with sound or anything like that, please do just drop comments in the chat, or I think there's like a raise hand function which you can kind of like manically wave and we should be able to see you. If not, we'll just carry on. So, okay, great stuff. So, yeah, let's get cracking. So, here we go. Right, so like the main topic for today is to kind of look at Facebook ads and go beyond what I think a lot of people would look at as the basics. So kind of where most people start at things like boosted posts and that type of stuff. So this is really kind of looking at the next step in terms of measuring and everything else. I'm guessing kind of attendees, there's going to be a relatively wide range of kind of abilities and experience. So I really hope there's something in here for everyone. So to get started with, we'll just go through the agenda. And what I've tried to do, like my whole idea with this session was to kind of go slightly beyond what you might get from a normal webinar and try and make it a little bit more along the lines of a training workshop. So kind of got a few very clear sections. So really first thing is, how to improve your creative and test faster. And it's a really obvious place to start, but it's hugely important in terms of delivering results at the right cost. How to select the right objectives and why that's so important. And as soon as you start getting into the more advanced side of Facebook ads, like campaign objectives, are absolutely imperative to success. So that absolutely has to be understood. How to customize your reporting views. I think probably one of the earliest frustrations you get with the Facebook Ad Manager, probably of many, is that the reporting views that come as standard aren't particularly useful. It's quite hard to actually get a very clear view of context and therefore what you need to do. So we'll look at that. How to extract data from the Facebook Ads Manager. So again, that's really the next step on that side of things. And then I really wanted to go into a little bit around Google Tag Manager and the Facebook Pixel. Cool. Great stuff. So in terms of how to get involved, Alex has joined me, has sat the other side of the room. For some reason, obviously his camera's not working, but he's kind of on hand to look out for questions as I go through this, so he'll be able to just interrupt and go from there. I purchased a novelty horn, so he can go on. Oh, that's the most annoying thing in the world. So, like, I spent £2 on this horn. So please, someone ask a question so Alex gets to honk it. But, like, on a serious note, I do really want this to be as like two-way as possible. So, chat via the webinar interface. There's a raise hand feature which Alex should be able to see.
Yep.
He's thumbing up. Yeah, great, cool. You can tweet us if you want. But yeah, please do get involved. And then what I've tried to do to kind of tie it back into that slightly more workshop format is for each section I've set a task or two. So the idea is we go through a bunch of things and then there's like a clear set of tasks and things you can try. Hopefully they're relevant, hopefully they're useful, hopefully they're things that you haven't done before or things that you need to kind of go back and look at. Cool, great stuff. So we'll start with creative. It is by far the most important point. It probably sounds quite obvious, but it's definitely a place we need to start. And the reason why is that within Facebook, even though you might be reporting on a cost per click or getting performance reports from Facebook on a cost per click basis, typically, unless you take the effort to change the settings, like typically you're charged per impression. So if you are running a campaign and you're paying a relatively high CPM and you're getting a very low click-through rate, that means you're going to be paying exactly the same amount of money as someone who's getting a high click-through rate, but you're getting less traffic and therefore fewer outcomes for your spend. So understanding that is really key. Even if the report says CPC, it's more than likely that you're being charged an impression, which really means that creative has a huge impact on the costs of your campaign. So the CPA, the CPC, and it's quite interesting when you look at social versus something like traditional PPC on Google Ads. Like, it has a huge impact on cost, right? And the thing that a lot of people struggle with or forget is how to make their product or service fit on social. And it's remembering that context that no one's really going onto social to look for your product. They're going onto social to escape from those types of decisions. And if you can't make it fit, it's just going to make everything very, very expensive. So in terms of what does work, like first off, it's, figure out how to make your product or service fit on social. But secondly, like, the quality bar is incredibly high. So these are a couple of ads that we've run recently with Liberty, and the sort of stuff that works well is that the children's department works fantastically. So there's lots of kind of pictures of cute teddy bears, really cool toys. It's got a very cute factor to it. This example on the right here, that's a slideshow. So what you can do in Facebook is, instead of just uploading one image, you can stitch together a number of images into a slideshow, which makes it just stand out that little bit more without having to invest a huge amount of money in video. This example here, so this was for a friend of ours who set up a really incredible kind of product for like architectural design, but using VR. Early stage startup, no real brand awareness, but tied into the fact that they were working with people like McLaren. Suddenly it gets more interesting. Suddenly it starts to fit on social. And you can see here like a couple of examples of some really cool kind of interactive videos that they produced for the campaigns. So that's kind of an example of like really kind of just tweaking the story a little bit to make it fit on social. Where are we? Okay, so this next one here, I'll just show you. These clips aren't particularly brilliant, but in terms of the quality of my screen recordings. But what you can do if you want to test video is use stock clips. So these are just a couple of examples for a client that we work with called Digital Risks, who are they're like specialist insurance for the digital startup sector. Very cool, very flexible, kind of quite disruptive in terms of the way they're offering insurance. And I'll just go back and show you these ones again. There we go. So what we're doing is we're testing video to see if it works for them without spending fortunes. So these two stock clips here, you can go to iStock, you can find a clip that suits what you're doing. They're about, I think, £30 each in terms of like purchasing the clip and getting the rights to use them in this format. So very cost effective, very fast, very good way to test video. And then there are kind of lots of other tools that you can use to just, again, like test different types of creative, test different formats, again, without spending a fortune. So I think like Canva is probably one of the more popular tools for just putting together social cards and overlaying logos and a little bit of text or that type of thing. Animoto is a really good tool for putting together slideshows and animated videos. iStock, as I mentioned, not just for photography, but for video clips, it can be really good. I've got the Photoshop app on my phone, and like that's really cool for just giving images a little bit more polish or kind of editing things for a story or anything like that. But again, there's so much available. You do not have to spend a fortune to test lots of different creative. And on that point, like Facebook are introducing lots of different ways in which you can test creative. So it definitely seems to be something that they want to encourage. So dynamic creative is probably one of the more long-standing options. So interestingly, for a creative function, it's set at the ad set level. So when you're setting up your ad set and you're choosing your objectives and that type of thing, you just turn dynamic creative on, and then that gives you the option to get to the point where you can put in different things. So say you set one ad up and you can put in multiple variants on the images, multiple CTAs, whatever it is you want to test, you can just test multiple versions from the same ad. So that's a very useful tool. You can now run separate creative for Instagram. So, if you're in a position where you're running Facebook and Instagram within the same ad set, chances are the creative that you want to run on Facebook is going to be slightly different to the creative that you want to run on Instagram. So just this example here of uploading an ad, you can see the option come up to customize for Instagram. You can see the image I've got here is the same kind of dimensions that I would use on Facebook. On Instagram, I can use a much taller ratio image to take up more space on the feed. So, obviously that's something that I'd really want to do if I was running that ad on Instagram. So you don't, if the reason for splitting your ad sets by platform, Facebook and Instagram, is creative, that's no longer something that you need to do unless you want to split out for different reasons, of course. So on to the tasks, and I hope this works as a format, and please do come back and ask questions on these or drop me an email and let me know how you get on. First thing I'd do with creative, however, is define what a good CTR benchmark should look like, not just for your account, but your different campaign types. Because if you're running a awareness campaign to cold traffic, the CTR is probably going to be quite different to the CTR that you would expect in retargeting, for example. So, different stages of the funnel, define your CTR benchmarks, learn what good looks like for your business and your account. Then I would use one of those tools, so Canva, Animoto, whatever it is, create a dramatically different style of ad. So don't just change the CTA, don't just change the copy a little bit. If you've got a picture of a product, do a lifestyle image. If you've got short copy, use really long copy. Like if it's slightly dry, do something funny with humor in it and just see what happens, but go completely opposite ends of the spectrum within what you can do within, obviously, like your brand guidelines and that type of thing. And then the more you use Facebook tools to kind of test those different elements, the faster you're going to learn and the more reliable these tests are going to be. Cool. Have you got any questions yet, Alex?
Not so far, but I have one actually. So how many ads/creatives would you typically want to test per audience?
Per ad set. So yeah, So like a while back, Facebook would be terrible at favoring one ad over another. So you would get kind of one ad that gets 20,000 impressions in a day and everything else would get 10. It seems to be getting better at distributing out, accordingly. So, between over 5 now is doable depending on what budget you're doing. Whereas I used to kind of would always just do one really. Obviously, if you're using the tools and split testing, you can do a lot more. But yeah. I think there was a couple more flashing up there.
Okay, yeah, Colin, where is a good place to find benchmarks for various sectors? Good question.
Colin, on that note, we're a couple of sections time, we've got a view on reporting in Facebook, so that will tell you exactly where to get it. But it should be, obviously, you can go and get industry benchmarks, and there's lots of kind of research tools, and AdStage do a really good quarterly report on Facebook benchmarks, so you can go and take a look at that. But for testing, you really want to be looking at your own benchmarks because everyone is completely different.
Fair enough. I think that's it for questions on creatives.
Cool. Okay, we will move on. So, understanding campaign objectives, I think, is this has to be like the fundamental bit of knowledge that you need to gain when you start getting beyond the basics of Facebook advertising, because it really influences everything. So to recap and basic view here. Anyone who set up a campaign before in Facebook will know that there are a number of different objectives that you can choose. So you can choose awareness objectives, you can choose objectives to boost your page, you can choose objectives to get traffic, drive conversions, drive catalog sales, drive leads, drive video views. The list goes on. And here are the kind of the main ones that you've got. The mistake people tend to make is they go, well, I want sales, I want conversions, so I guess I'll pick the conversions objective. And that might not always be best, because different objectives tend to have different costs. So the CPM in the conversions campaign will likely be a lot higher than the CPM that you pay for a traffic campaign, sometimes kind of upwards of like 50% higher. So it's pretty significant. But like, why do you need to select this correctly and carefully? Well, what happens is, I think probably a few people have seen similar types of visualizations here before, but we'll go through it again anyway. If you select an audience of, let's say, 500,000 people, and you select the traffic objective, Facebook will go, well, okay, of those 500,000 people, I know that these 30,000 people are highly likely to click on your ad. So what I'm going to do is prioritize the delivery of my ad to that small segment of your audience. So that red dot gets loads of your ads, and the purple dot gets next to nothing. The purple circle, the people in there get next to nothing. So you have to be very, very careful. Now, if you've got a small audience that you've already qualified through retargeting, for example, you don't really need Facebook to figure out who in there is most likely to buy, because you've already done it yourself, right? Cool. So, like, we can use that to our advantage, and this is like where most people start, and it's completely common sense. So interest-based audiences, where you go and you put your own demographics in. You say, I want to target people who are interested in this thing, between this age, this gender, that type of stuff. Very obvious place to start, but that doesn't necessarily make the most of the strength that the pixel has, right? So you do need to go and test interest-based audiences, but the first thing to do when you've selected your campaign objective, make sure that you've got the right pixel events set up. So this is the list of standard events that you have in the Facebook pixel. So purchase, leads, registrations, add to carts, that type of thing. Now, like, most people, like, when they first look at Facebook ads, will look at these as measurement tools only. So, and it kind of is true. So adding the add to cart pixel event will tell you how many people have added a product to cart from your campaign, but it also teaches the pixel who is most likely to add a product to your cart. So you can start to train it to deliver and prioritize for various things. So this was a crazy kind of experiment that we ran a while back, and that we had 3 ad sets. 2 were lookalike audiences based on different seed data, and 1 ad set had literally no targeting in at all. We just picked a campaign objective. We had enough data coming through the pixel to tell Facebook, okay, here are the types of people that are most likely to convert on that action, and we just optimized the delivery. So we relied on Facebook's learning process to deliver the ads to the right people with literally no targeting at all beyond the country that we're working in, and it had half the CPA of one of our other lookalikes. So it was a crazy experiment, but it does show the power and the strength of that Facebook pixel, and allowing it to learn correctly. So if you're doing this, like, I would definitely recommend kind of looking at split tests. So the benefit of running a split test campaign on Facebook is that you control the like the reach of each different variant. So if you just set up an ad set, like we are kind of talking about a little bit earlier, so if you set up an ad set and you put 10 ads in, Facebook will more than likely pick a couple that it believes are going to do better, and it will deliver those way more than everything else. Whereas if you do a split test, what you're saying is, here are my variables, I want to deliver those evenly and get a fair test. So if you want to get a real kind of scientific view, do this. If we're looking at campaign objectives to test, then basically you would go here and you would select the delivery optimization as your variable. So it's taking the campaign objective and that's what you're optimizing the delivery for. There's also like a very handy hub in the Facebook Ad Manager. It's called like Test and Learn. If you look in the top menu, you should see it. There's a number of different things you can do. So you can do conversion lift experiments where Facebook will deliver your ads to your audience, and then there's a control group, and they will look at the overall conversion lift between those two. You can house A/B tests, you can house kind of any experiment there. So if you want to do lots of testing, I would definitely have a look at how you can organize everything within that test and learn tool. Okay, so quite a basic one here, but first thing to do is, even if you're looking for conversions, be that sales or leads, I would set up a split test to test the difference between a conversion objective versus a traffic objective, or a traffic objective versus a engagement objective, and look at what happens against your benchmark. So look at the difference in CPM, for example, and get a sense of how much each one costs against each other. Look at the difference in CPC, because Facebook are, in theory, delivering or prioritizing the delivery to different people. What impact does that have on CTR? Then I would just try something like that other test we did and see how you need the volume here through the pixel. But if you do have the volume, just try and see how good you can get Facebook at optimizing that delivery compared to kind of your more traditional targeting. So there are two experiments that I've run off the back of that section. We got any questions on that?
We do, actually, and I missed Colin's horn, so sorry, Colin. This one's for you. And we got a question here from Joe.
Ah, okay.
That's a bit better. Would you say using the Facebook pixel is the safe option in terms of targeting and allowing it to learn?
Definitely not the safe option. It's like if you just let it run wild and go, right, here's the UK, and I want you to target anyone who you think is most likely to add my product to their cart, right? You're putting a lot in their hands. I would do a small test. I would see how it goes. I've done it a few times with different accounts. A couple of occasions it's worked really well. Like a couple of occasions it just hasn't. So it's a test. Definitely don't put all your budget in. I would never say anything is the safe option with Facebook. You just do not know until you test it. I hope that answers that question.
I think that's it for questions so far.
Okay.
Yeah, guys, keep them coming.
Cool. Okay, great stuff. So reporting views. So yeah, Colin, you were asking about CTR benchmarks earlier. Like, this is how you get the information in a reliable way, or one of the ways. So, right. Yeah, like this is a real problem, I think, with the Facebook Ad Manager at the moment, and that like it's very difficult to get clear views of performance if you just use their default reporting setups, right? So typically, like you've got, I'll just go, so like the performance drop down there, right? You can look at overall performance based on the objectives that you selected. You can look at performance and clicks, so CTR, CPCs, that type of thing. You can look at all sorts of different things. And you can break down by gender, age, placement, device, that type of stuff. You want a bit more granularity. But as soon as you start adding in anything custom, or you want anything beyond the basics, then it gets a little bit tricky from the standard views. So one of the first things that we always do whenever we take on an account is start building out a number of different customized views. So you basically go through see that performance drop down? If you click that, then at the bottom you've got customized columns. You can search for any metric that Facebook has. So that's any of their default metrics plus any custom conversions or events that you've added in, and we'll go through that in a bit. You basically go through and you can select what you want, right? So if it's e-commerce, I want to know a view on ROAS, I want to know a view on CPA, I want to know cost per landing page view, not cost per click, because cost per landing page view is a fully loaded session. Cost per click could be someone like just literally clicking on the image, so not particularly useful for me. So build out what I want, build out a few different views, and you can save them all as presets. So whenever you log into the account next time, you just take that view that you need, and it's already there and configured. So like this is an example here for a retailer. So, compared to the kind of initial view, I've got ROAS, great, landing page views, great, cost per purchase, CPA. So that is far more actionable for me. This is fascinating. So if you're measuring conversions, which you absolutely should be, of course, leads, lead forms, purchases, add to carts, whatever it is you're measuring, you can look at the breakdown of like the time decay between a view or a click on the ad and that conversion happening. So, if you've got a high ticket priced item, like it might be that it takes a month for someone to buy. If it's a bit more spur of the moment, they might be buying on the same day. What you can do is if you go to the same customized view, and then in the bottom right hand corner there's this comparing windows option, which makes it very obvious, and you can then go, right, I want to look at 1 day views versus 1 day click, 7 day click, 28 day click. Hit that and you'll get a breakdown, and it will show you of 100 conversions. Here's how many people did it on the same day. Here's how many people did it between days 2 and 7. Here's how many people did it between days 8 and 28. So that's the way to do it if you want to get a view on that type of stuff. One of the benefits of kind of getting a clearer understanding of benchmarks and true performance is you can start to kind of experiment with automated rules, which in the ad manager that is kind of hidden and it's not discussed a huge amount. And I think there's some pretty powerful stuff you can do in here. So this example on the left, this is saying, okay, take my ad set that I'm running. If CPA is under £5 and impressions are over 8,000, I want to increase my spend by 10%, and I want to run this daily at lunchtime. So every day it's going to go and check for the CPA versus the impression account, and if it hits that criteria, it's going to increase my spend. I can't do that and don't want to do that unless I've got a clear view on CPA. Scheduling, so lots of sales coming up, Black Friday, for example. Facebook traditionally has been relatively manual if you're going through the ad manager and working directly in Facebook itself. But there are rules, and they're not necessarily scheduling rules, but there are rules that you can use to do this. So this example here, I've got selected an ad. The action I've said turn off ad if the current time goes beyond 12 a.m. on November the 28th, and it will just turn the ad off. Be very careful though, because it will keep checking that until you turn the rule off. It will check that every 30 minutes. So if you're doing turn ad on, if you have an turn ad on rule against the turn off rule, it will be checking them both. And if the turn on rule criteria is still true, it'll just turn it back on again. So, you use with caution. Okay, cool. So, quite obvious tasks. So first thing, like if you're running Facebook ads and you haven't set up custom reporting views, do it immediately. Get some simple views and show the KPIs that you really care about. And then test a couple of rules out. So see how it goes. If you want to test increases in spend, do that. You can do things like, okay, if frequency gets above 4 or 3 or whatever your comfortable limit is, turn the ad set off and pause it. all of those types of things. So have an experiment with automated rules, because there's so much you can do, and it's a relatively hidden area of the ad account. Cool. Any questions from anyone on that side of things?
Not so far.
Okay, cool. Great stuff. We'll keep going. So this is kind of the next logical step, really, from reporting views, and it's how you can go about extracting data from Facebook to get even more kind of insight. So the tool that we use daily, and I remember when I discovered this tool, my life changed forever for the better. Supermetrics. So what Supermetrics does is it allows you to kind of connect lots of different sources. So it could be Facebook ads, it could be Twitter ads, it could be MailChimp, it could be YouTube, it could be, you know, a huge number of sources, and it allows you to connect those to Google Sheets or Excel or Google Data Studio. So if I want to get a 60-day view on the CTR, and I want to see that in a chart without anything else, I can do it with a click of a button using Supermetrics. So here's how it works. I've kind of put together a little video experiment. So you add the plugin, you select the number of days that you want to look at, you select your metrics, and that could be anything that you've got in the Facebook ad account, from frequency to CTR to CPA, whatever it is. I want to show my results by date. Make sure you've got enough rows that you're fetching. I've got a little filter on there. Hit that query button and it runs. So this means that if, you know, I don't know, like say one of our clients has an important meeting and they need a load of data to pull in and use for that meeting, where it would have taken a huge amount of effort and pain and anguish, it literally takes a few minutes to pull that in through Google Sheets. So the other great thing you can do with Supermetrics is set up triggers. So again, if I open it up, I can go into manage schedule refresh, select email, I can email results, or I can just set a refresh every morning. That means when I come in, I've got a really nice fresh set of results, and it's just doing that every single day. So a really, really useful tool. I literally, with looking at Facebook ads and looking at how difficult it can be to get insight from the Facebook ad manager, I do not know how I could do it without this tool. So thank you, Supermetrics. I'm genuinely not on commission. It is genuinely good. Okay, cool. Or like what you can do is similar to the example with Google Sheets, like we can just kind of connect directly to Google Data Studio. So again, it works in the same way. You basically kind of pull through the metrics, set what you want, and then you can build a Data Studio report as well. And what it means is we can look at high-level stats. So in this example here, I'm going, right, why has my CPA spiked over the last few days? CPM's kind of dropped back down after the weekend. What's going on? Well, like you literally cannot get a view that high level over that time period that clearly from the Facebook ad manager, at least without a huge amount of effort, right? So for me, it just means I've got that high level view. I can spot problems. In this case, it was between two sales. So CPA was going up while they were waiting for another sale, went back down again. All good, happy days. But I wouldn't, it's very difficult to kind of see that behavior without that, without these reporting tools. Okay, so task here, like Supermetrics do a free 30-day trial. I think there are other connectors available on the market, by the way. But I would get a connector, I would set up some Data Studio reports or Google Sheet reports that refresh and that give you a view on whatever metric it is you care about. So is that CTR versus frequency? So what's the relationship between the two? Has my CTR dropped off because my frequency spiked? You'll be able to do this within minutes. So go and have a go. It's amazing. Cool.
We have another question actually from Anat.
The horn.
Does Supermetrics pull Instagram ads data too?
Yes. Yeah, and LinkedIn ads, so, Twitter ads. Yep. Does a lot. Yep.
No worries. Cool. I think that's it.
Yeah. Okay. Sweet. And we'll come back to questions at the end as well. So if there's something you want to go through, we'll do it then. Okay. Last kind of bit. Google Tag Manager and the Facebook Pixel. So we've already kind of explored a little bit around like why I think the Facebook Pixel is so important and so powerful. Google Tag Manager and even just a basic kind of understanding of how to work in it is the thing that will make this power possible, basically. So it's hugely important to get to kind of get used to at least the basics on it. So why you should care? Well, the best thing I think about the Facebook Pixel is the ability to customize it. So to customize for different conversions, customize for different events, that is the most powerful thing here, right? Google Tag Manager means you can do it. Google Tag Manager means you can trigger those custom events based on lots of different criteria and lots of different things. So you can get incredibly granular with conversions and events that you're tracking. So that means you can track different things. It means you can retarget people based on very specific criteria. And it also means you can optimize the delivery of your ads to very specific types of behaviors. So, I mean, we could literally do a full hour on Tag Manager and Facebook Pixel and more. Like we can go very in depth. So I'll just take you through a few things here. So, setting up standard events, very easy. So, if you've got the Pixel set up in your ad account, you can export these standard events out. So you can see the little script there. It's pasted in as a custom HTML tag. That's all you need to do, and then you would set that up to trigger on, in this case for a lead. More than likely you would set that up to trigger on the completion of a form, for example. One word of warning: if you are putting in your events, you have to make sure they fire after the base pixel fires. So your main base pixel needs to fire, and then your standard events need to fire. So the way you do that is in tag sequencing. What we're doing is we're saying before my custom event, or before my event, Facebook leads, I would need to make sure that the Facebook pixel, the main pixel, fires first. So don't forget that step, otherwise they won't work correctly. And then you can basically customize these to be whatever you want. So what I've done here is put in a click-to-call event. Facebook doesn't have a standard click-to-call event. So all I've done is I've changed track. I'll try and highlight it with my mouse here. So I've changed track to track custom. And then I've named it, you just name it whatever you want. So click to call, click on phone, whatever. And then I trigger that when someone clicks on the link, including towel colon, which is the kind of standard kind of attribute for phone number links. So that's kind of how you do it there. This one is a slightly more kind of complex example. So see, again, I've got track custom, I've got follow-up email click, is what I've called it. The idea here was to set up a custom conversion for someone who's come back via the next step in an email campaign. So the idea being, like, if I'm running a Facebook lead campaign, I do, but I don't really care how many people put their details into my form, because there's usually a fair amount of noise. What I care about are people that are getting, the number of people that are getting nurtured through my funnel, and the ads that are delivering the highest quality of leads into the funnel. So what this does is it triggers this tag, this custom event, when medium equals, like, the referral traffic, medium equals email, and the campaign name equals like follow-up email campaign. So there's a full blog post there, and you can go and have a look at it. But the idea here is you can basically do it for pretty much whatever you want, depending on what the business needs are. Then the end step is just navigate to custom conversions. Once you've got your event, like click to call or however you've named it, it should show up in that drop down, and then you can create a custom conversion for every time someone fires that event. So basically, if you don't know for Tag Manager, just get in, get it set up on a test site or something like that. Try and create some custom conversions. It's once you've got used to it, it's easier than you'd think, and the amount you can do is just absolutely incredible. So highly recommend getting used to that and just trying to set up some custom conversions. Cool. So yeah, just to wrap up, like definitely things that you should be trying. So test some of those creative tools. Go for like really big variances of creative within the limits of your brand. Make use of dynamic creative to test. Use split tests. Use the test and learn function or hub in the Facebook Ad Manager. Test different campaign objectives, even if the end goal for you is the same. To see how the different objectives can help kind of change the costs in getting there. Customize the reporting. Create your own reports using a connector of Supermetrics or something else in Google Sheets or Google Data Studio, and then test, kind of just go and have a play with Tag Manager. Do that. And there we go. Cool. So, yeah, are there any more questions that anyone wanted to go through?
Oh, we have got another one actually. It's not in the chat. I think it's in the Q&A.
Oh, yeah.
Will I be able to watch this webinar later?
If it's recorded correctly, yes.
Brilliant.
Yes, you will. Yeah.
Cool. I think that's it. Oh, here we go. Another one. Oh, hold on. Sorry. Are there any major do's or don'ts? That's again from Joe.
I think the biggest do or don't is don't ever assume one thing that's worked in the past is going to work again, because my experience of working with Facebook ads is that there are some guiding principles, but generally, like, one thing that's worked for someone else usually won't necessarily work in the same way again. So the big don't is don't just rely on like going through the motions, and the do to that is just test like crazy. Yeah, that's my probably biggest advice for Facebook ads, and start small and just learn to look for the indicators of success. So if you're testing a different campaign objective, see what happens to CPM. You go, it's got cheaper. So that's what I would do, if that makes sense.
I think it's also key having the right audience. For me, that's always been quite a big do. Try and find that key audience for the message you're trying to put across.
Definitely. Cool. I don't think anyone else for anything else.
I think that's it.
Cool. All right. Well, look, we'll be sharing kind of the location of the recording with everyone, so you'll be able to kind of come back and watch. Thank you so much for joining. Like, I genuinely hope it was useful. And if you have any questions or you want to try out the tasks and come back for kind of a little bit more advice, whatever, have more questions, just please drop me an email. Would love to hear from you. Thanks. And yeah, take care and speak soon.
Cheers, everyone.